ورسوله اللهم اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. You get to know a lot about a person by how they set the rules, how they run their company, their family. We're going to get to know a little bit about Allah through this hadith this morning, inshallah. And this is a hadith Qudsi عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله كتب الحسنات والسيئات. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created a system of hasanat and sayyat, good deeds and bad deeds. ثم بين ذلك. And then he explains how the system works. And there's basically 4 rules highlighted in this hadith about how the system works. So the first one, فَمَنْ هَمَّ بِحَسَنَةٍ فَلَمْ يَعْمَلَهَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَهُ عِنْدَهُ حَسَنَةٌ كَامِلَةٌ. So the first rule is if a person intends to do a hasana, but doesn't do it, doesn't follow through with it, for whatever reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will write it down as a full hasana. Rule number 2, فإن هو هم بها ففعلها كتبها الله له عنده 10 حسنات إلى 700 ضعف إلى أضعاف كثيرة. So rule number 2, if you intend to do a hasana and you do it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will write it down as 10 hasanat up to 700, and Allah may multiply it many multitudes as well. Rule number 3, Bismillah. وَمَنْ هَمَّ بِسَيِّئَةٍ فَلَمْ يَعْمَلْهَا كَتَبَهَا اللَّهُ لَهُ عِنْدَهُ حَسَنَةٌ كَامِلَةٌ. So rule number 3, if you intend to do a sayyah, but you don't do it, you get a full hasana. And then rule number 4, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. فإن هو هم بها ففعلها كتبها الله سيئة واحدة. And if you take the intent to do a sayyah and you do it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will write it as one single sayyah. So let's reflect on this hadith. As I said at the beginning, you get to know a person by how they run their organization or run their family. What do we get to know about Allah? And the word that comes to my mind is generous. Very generous. Out of the 4 rules, and by the way, in other ahadith, even that sayyah that was written, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the malak, the angel, don't write the sayyah, wait. My servant may ask for forgiveness, and I will forgive him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pushing us to Jannah. Out of the 4 ways, only 1 way can you get a sayyah, and just 1 sayyah. And so as we reflect, number 1, the first lesson we can get from this hadith is the power of intentions in our deen. We can become millionaires of hasanat by just making intentions. And this is not something out of vain. It's actually psychologically proven, even just you in your life, if you reflect, taking an intention is one of the first steps of change and growth. And actually doing something, you have to have that conscious state of mind. So if we can actually constantly be in a state where we're thinking of what else we can do. Because even if you don't do it, you just get the hasana of doing it. So for example, think for a moment. You're coming today for Fajr. Some of you may stay till shuruq, some of you may not. But why not take the intention? As you're coming here, I'm going to stay till sunrise, 15 minutes after, pray 2 rakahs, I get the reward of a hajj and a umrah. Even if you don't do it, you get the hasana. Why not take the intention today that, you know what, I don't pray all my sunnahs, but today I'll pray it. If you take this intention right now, in this moment, you get the reward of that intention. You take the intention, inshallah, that, you know what, I'm going to donate. For whatever reason, your nafs, that internal conflict, is acknowledged in this hadith. فَلَمْ يَفْعَلَهَا. You don't do it. You get cold feet, you get second thoughts, whatever it is, you don't do it. You get the hasanah. We can become millionaires of hasanat. And if you think about it, this constant state of thinking, what else can I do for Allah? How else can I get hasanat? What, in this moment here, with my spouse, with my family, with my kids at work, how can I get some hasanat? What intentions can I take? You know what this will do ultimately? This will change you. This will transform you. Because now you're in a state of taqwa. You're constantly thinking, conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what the game is. The second reflection, the generosity. You just, if you really reflect on this hadith, you get overwhelmed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and if you do the good deed, I'll give you 10 times the good deed. No. All the way up to 700. No. And I'll multiply it for you. Like, just do it. Do the good deed and leave the reward to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this tells us that small acts that may seem insignificant to us, a hasanah. Like literally, as you're walking out today, you can smile to a brother as you're putting your shoes on. We know that's a hasanah. That hasanah could be worth 700 hasanah. It's a simple, smile to me right now. Smile, all of you. Look at someone beside you and just smile. These small acts. And the Prophet ﷺ said, do not overlook any of the small deeds, because that may be the deed that tips your scale on the Day of Judgment. I'll wrap up quickly, inshallah. The mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as we refrain from sins. And when you read this and you say, okay, the third rule, if you do ham of a hasanah, and by the way, ham is even more than intent. It's an intent with a proximity to the action, with a strong emotional desire, like, I'm going to do this sayyah. But then I stop. That internal struggle. I get that moment of fear of Allah, and I don't do it. What would be fair is you don't get the sayyah. But to get a hasanah instead of it, that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only acknowledges the struggle we go through, that tension, but He rewards for it. I know a lot of young people where they're like, I don't know if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves me. I have these desires to always do these bad things, talk in this bad way, watch this bad thing. That acknowledgement of our humanity is not only acknowledged but rewarded if you put Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. And if you don't and fall and do the sayyah, Allah will write it as one. Just one. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive. So just to conclude, we always talk about this balance of hope and fear. Al-khawf al-raja. But when you look at a hadith like this, you can't help but say, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. The rahmah, the generosity, the love is very obvious. And so, as we conclude, inshallah, get to know Allah. Don't just learn the rules of the game from these hadith, but understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because one that can put rules like this of generosity and giving and rahmah, he is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And sometimes when you look at the world around you and everything that is happening and all the negativity, we get overwhelmed and we say, where is the rahmah? But it's there. It is there, wallahi. We just can't see it. We don't understand it. But you have to understand, and these hadith show us these glimpses. He is the most generous, not just to us, but to every human alive. Whether they're in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Sudan, he is generous. It's just in ways we may not understand it. وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا.